And I want to remove this.
Looks like we are live.
Hi, Bookkeeping Side Hustle Community. This is Kate. I'm trying to get my little graphic here. I am here again for fourth interview with Shahram from Financial Sense. I am grateful that he has taken the time to do this series with us. And today we're going to be talking about how to build a high-performing firm. If you haven't watched our previous interviews, we've talked about scaling your firm with checklists, how to automate things, and how to run a firm remotely as well. So we can, take those trips we want to take, but still have the business running. So today we're going to talk about building a high-performing firm. Any resource we mention is going to be in the description below this YouTube channel. And yeah, that's where the resources will be. And I would like Shahram to just introduce himself, although our community's familiar with you. Just give us
Yeah.
kind of who you are, and then we'll get started on how to build a high-performing firm.
All right, great. Well, hey everyone. If you don't know me, my name's Shahram. I'm the founder of Financial Sense, and we help accounting firms get work done. So we've worked with a lot of accounting firms over the years, hundreds and hundreds, and helping them become more efficient. And this is why we like creating this content, because we want to pass on some of that knowledge we learned to you guys. So we're going to be sharing some of that today, and it's going to touch on some of the previous topics we've talked about and how you can bring them all together now. So this is going to be a phenomenal webinar if you're a solo and you're looking, maybe you're already maxed out. You're working 40, probably more than that, right? Maybe 50, 60 hours a week. And you can't take on any more clients, but you want to continue to grow, but you don't want to hire a team. In this webinar, you're going to be able to see how you can do that, how you could double your client base potentially, but not have to hire someone new. Or you could keep your same client base, but work maybe half the hours a week. You're going to learn a lot of these cool productivity hacks that's going to make your firm more efficient.
That's awesome. Yeah, I specifically asked Shahram to like, what if? I mean, high performing doesn't necessarily have to mean extremely large in terms
Yeah.
of people, or in terms of time. Like if you want to work 10 hours a week but make a lot of money, that would be a high performing firm to me. So he's gonna be sure to pepper that kind of theme throughout. So are we ready to dive in?
Yeah, definitely. Let's do it. And
All right.
just
I'm at.
to
Go
touch
ahead.
on that, like Kate was saying, we're going to talk about it from a solo perspective, but all of these frameworks, all of these tips, if you want to grow and scale your firm to, 3, 5, 10, 20 people, they still all apply. They scale well with your firm, and they'll actually make that whole process a lot easier. And we'll talk a little bit about that, a little bit about that as well.
Exactly. And Financial Sense can help you be that large firm with a large staff too. So it's a flexible tool. So yes, here we go. Well, let's add to the stream here. There you go.
Yeah, definitely. So I already talked about myself, but again, what we do is we help firms get work done. We serve over 1,000 accounting firms, and we're providing an awesome practice management tool, which you can use some of these things that we learned today inside of our tool. It's the premise of what we do. If you're ever looking for something to help you more easily implement these frameworks we're going to talk about today. So let's get into the agenda. First, we're going to talk about what does a high-performing firm look like, why it can be difficult to achieve that high performance, and what you kind of need to do to get there. And then at the end of it, we're going to talk about some free resources that you can use. They're going to be like actionable frameworks and playbooks that you can use to help you actually implement the things we talk about today a lot easier than just trying to figure it all out after the webinar. So we like to leave you guys with something that you can take away and actually implement in your firm. So you'll be
Exactly.
getting those resources, which is going to be great. So let's first talk about what does a high-performing firm look like, right? So like we talked about earlier, right? Maybe you're a solo and you're already maxed out. You're working 60 hours a week. You can't handle any more clients, but you want to be able to generate more revenue and money at the end of the day for you to take home. Well, a high-performing firm unlocks a lot of capacity by increasing productivity. So you can double your client base without hiring employees. Or if you do have employees, you can get more work out of and output out of your employees without putting more stress on them. Um, but at the same time, when high performance is not all about output, right? It's not all about doing more work. It's also about doing it correctly. So, true high performance, you can increase your output, but you can maintain the quality of work. You can keep those deliverables consistent month to month and from client to client, which keeps your clients happy and helps you retain your clients, which is an important metric for accounting firms. And it's going to keep you in the loop on everything. So nothing slips through the cracks. Even though maybe you doubled your client base, you can still stay on top of their deadlines. You can easily access all their information and get your work done so you're not missing deadlines and becoming overwhelmed. But I think some of the biggest benefits, right, at the end of the day by having all of this is your clients will be happy. You're going to get more referrals, more new business, which will drive more organic growth. And the beautiful part of that is if you can drive growth and you can handle a client base where you double it or even triple it if you do this right, you're dramatically going to increase profitability. Because if you think about it, the biggest expense most firms have is hiring people. It's your payroll. That's where most of your expenses go. But if you can double revenue without having to increase some of those major expenses, most of that money that comes in is going to fall straight to the bottom line and into your pocket, which you can use to pay yourself, to live a better lifestyle, or to reinvest back into your firm if you are looking to scale and grow it and build out a team.
I like the idea that a high-performing firm sort of naturally leads to referrals, because referrals are usually pretty good clients, because if you don't like the client that's referring, you're probably not going to like their friend. But birds of a feather flock together. So those folks, there's a good chance that they're good. They're going to be a good client, and it's kind of free, and you're able to work on more client work because you're not doing all the marketing stuff, because you're not having to write all those emails. Like, it's just you're doing good work, so that speaks for itself, and people are going to come want good work done. So that's an interesting tie together.
Yeah, definitely. We see it a lot. I mean, if you do good work, and you provide consistent client deliverables, your client's going to be happy and they're going to. That's the biggest growth driver for business. Most firms I talk to that have experienced great growth, it really comes down to their customers referring new business. And the best way they do that is they just make sure they're doing a good job. They're attentive to their clients, they're communicating with their clients, and they're providing good deliverables. And we'll talk about how high performance is, again, not just about output, but how you achieve that is by better communicating with your clients and being organized and creating this consistency. So, a really interesting topic today. I think a lot of firms will get value out of. So, let's talk a little bit, like, every firm wants this, right? But why does every firm not have it? Why is it difficult to achieve? Well, it comes down to three major things. And these are the things we saw when we've been working with a lot of our firms is, one, it's the lack of processes and documentation. So there aren't clear processes to follow. It creates variation. It creates mistakes. It creates inconsistent deliverables, right? A lot of firms, this is where you can unlock a lot of capacity and save a lot of time, right? You're wasting a lot of time on manual or low admin tasks, non-billable work. You're doing these little things, like from setting up calls, sending out repetitive emails, communicating with client or chasing down clients' information. Like, there's a lot of this low admin work or these tasks that can really take up 30-40% of your day, when that could be used on taking on new clients, taking on more work, if you can eliminate those from your process. And then a lack of organization, right? So organization, collaboration, visibility, we like to tie all that in together. Things are being stored all over the place, whether it's where your work is getting done. Most solos, it's happening in your head, or maybe it's on a sheet of paper. It's hard to juggle, especially if you achieve high performance and you grow your client base. It's hard to juggle all that in your head. Mistakes are made. Things slip through the cracks. Organization, though, where is that client file? Where is that document? Where are those notes from my last meeting? Where is that email that client sent me? I can't find it in my inbox. You're spending a lot of time trying to find all this information because it's disorganized and it's chaotic. And it's just because you don't have that processes in place. So what do you have to do to achieve that, right? What are the three things you need to do? Well, the three things you need to do are you need to solve those main problems. And how do you do that? So lack of processes and documentation. You need to document and streamline your processes. This is for if you're a solo, it's still important, but it's even more important if you are working with contract hires, part-time individuals, or planning to scale your team. Um, you need to automate those low admin and time consuming processes. So you're sending a lot of the same emails every day. You maybe create a template. You're consistently scheduling calls, and there's a lot of back and forth that adds up. Get a scheduler app, very easy to do. Chasing down clients for information, automated reminders, right? So you get that information faster, but don't have to spend the time chasing down them. There's so many things that you can automate in a firm, because the thing about accounting firms is the processes are pretty streamlined, right? You do a lot of the same things over and over again because you're doing a lot of the same repetitive work. And there's typically a process to follow to do it right and stay in compliance. So this makes accounting firms prime for automation. There's a lot of things you can automate, and you can unlock a lot of capacity that way. And lastly, you want to create a firm hub to centralize everything. You want your work, your client communication, your team communication, and all your documents, emails, all that information, your whole firm database, everything in one place so you know where it is and it's easy to access when needed. So that's going to be how you create a high performing firm. And we're going to go through each of these steps and how you can actually do that now.
Awesome.
So let's jump into the first one, right? Process documentation. Like we talked about, one of the biggest issues firms have is they don't have a standard process. So even as a solo, right, you may know how to do everything, but keeping it on your head leaves you prone to making mistakes, right? You might, for example, make a mistake and then you have to go back and rework it, even though you're doing it over and over again. But also having just a process checklist to follow every time makes things quicker. You don't have to really think about how did I do this last time. And a lot of your clients, you do work differently for each of them. So having a process to follow for each client, especially the ones that are more customizable or have different needs, prevents you from forgetting those things. Or as you update your workflows over time, you don't have to go back and remember what was that new process I used. So it just keeps everything more efficient. Now, if you're a solo and you work with part-time individuals, one of the biggest problems with outsourcing some work or working with part-time individuals is you still have to train them on how to do the work. Creating these processes will make it easier to train them. It will prevent them from making mistakes because they're less experienced. And it will just help them be more efficient with the work because they're not having to spend time thinking about how to do it or ask you questions of how to do the work. Same goes for if you're going to plan to scale and grow your firm and actually bring an in-person staff at some point in the future. Having these streamlined processes will make that whole process a lot easier so you can scale faster while maintaining quality work and consistent client deliverables.
I met someone locally. We had a coffee just this week, and she was talking about how she's really trying to scale. She's even thinking of buying a firm, and she knows that transition is going to be hard. And so we were just talking, and she was like, "Okay, I think that like if I can create checklists that are like 80% right, then empower the people who are doing the work to tweak and customize and say like, we know we're going to do all of this, but let the people who are in the file add the customizations, add the little tiny
Yeah.
tweaks, like, oh, this person has a weird city sales tax that no one else has, or whatever. And it's a little bit of both. So you're not having to be like the hero the whole time, but you as the leader, as the firm leader, are providing the framework. Like, this is the field we play in. So I thought that was a good way for her to approach it. And so she spent some time, and then she let her staff do it. And I thought, well, that because it sounds overwhelming, I guess, to be the one to like make the checklist and make everything customizable.
Yeah.
But we don't have to do that. The people who are like doing the books can. That contractor who you've hired, if you're wanting to just bring that first person on part-time, can. The checklists are editable. I guess that's the beauty of it.
Yeah, definitely. And that is a really great point. And we'll talk about this actually. So you, as a firm owner, like you said, you don't have to do all that yourself. But what I would recommend the firm owner doing, create that baseline template.
Yep.
like most of the time, like 80% of the time, this is how we do month end close or monthly bookkeeping, right? Share that with your team, and your team that actually does the work, that knows the specifics and all those little edge cases. They can go in and they have now the foundation that they can build off of and make the changes to, and then
Right.
save those. So again, it's like retention is a really hard problem right now. If you lose a team member and they, decide to go do something else, and you bring someone else new, they can pick up right where they left off. They see all the little edge cases, they see all the little tailored specifics, and it's like it makes your firm more resilient, which is the next point, right? Because if someone's sick, if you lose an employee, anyone can pick up right where they left off because they know exactly where the last stage of the process they were in. They know exactly how to do the work. I mean, it takes their brain and makes it transferable. It duplicates the work that you can do. So now let's talk about how to actually do it, right? How can you do it quickly? So we talked about this a little bit in some of our past webinars, but the first thing you want to do, which also builds off the point we were just talking about, is you want to keep it simple. You just want to create a baseline template for how you do a process. So in this example, a simple 10-step process for how we do monthly bookkeeping. And you want to keep it simple. I really want to reiterate that, because a lot of firms struggle at this point because they try to create the perfect checklist, all the little details, all the information, every little thing that they can think of. And what happens is firms are busy and they don't have time to do that for all their processes. It's going to take weeks. So instead of doing that, keep it simple so you don't get overwhelmed and kick the can down the road, and it probably never really ends up happening because it just gets pushed down on your never ending to-do list. So, and how we recommend people to keep it simple is just set a timer for 5 minutes and brain dump the process onto a piece of paper or into an Excel file. Just type out all the steps as fast as you can. Don't overthink it. Don't even worry about keeping it in the right order or the spelling, right? Just give yourself 5 minutes to get that process out of your head onto a sheet of paper. Then when the 5 minutes is over, double check it, make sure, fix your misspellings, make sure everything's in the right order. And you've created a process checklist that you and your team can now use to document your processes within 5 minutes. And if you can do it in 5 minutes, you can document every process for your firm probably within an hour. If you can, and that gives your team or contract hires or even you that process to follow to start driving consistent client deliverables. It gives you the ability to scale, and it only took an hour of your time. So a vital step. Now, if you do want to add detail, right, you really want to create a checklist of all the extra information. You can go after you've created all your checklists, add in the detail, right? Create a Loom video. One thing we recommend, don't create long SOP documents that are, 10 pages long, 10, 20 page Word documents with screenshots and steps and detail. That takes a long time. Again, you don't have. Just record yourself as you do the work, paste it into the workflows and the checklist so your team can see actually how to complete each individual one of these steps, how to actually do prep the accounts payable or review the accounts receivables or categorize uncategorized transactions if you work with part-time people or outsource that work, so you can maintain that quality. Loom is a great platform for that. It's very free, easy to use. Everyone I know loves it, especially because it's free. So would highly recommend that platform. We use that for all our processes. And then lastly, you want to add in other information. So this kind of piggybacks on organization. So throughout a lot of these processes, you're going to need other information to actually complete the work. There's two things that go into doing work. It's knowing how to do it, and it's having the information to actually get it done.
Yep.
So this is
both
how
are hard.
Yeah, both can be difficult, but you want to organize it in one place so you can access it in one click. So on the checklist, if you're reaching out to a client requesting information, have an email template for how you request that. Highlight the process for following up. Have their contact information or a link to the client database. receive documents, where do you upload them? Have the link to the folder. Use an app to manage accounts payable. What's the app URL? What's the login information? Have all this stuff so it's one click away so you can quickly get the work done and access the information you need to get it done. That's for you. But also, again, if you're planning on hiring or working with other individuals part-time, they need access to this information too. You probably might know where it is, but they won't. So by putting it in one place, it enables them to go faster. It empowers them to get their work done without having to interrupt your day and ask you for it or spend countless amount of wasted time trying to find it.
I have a question for you. Have you ever heard of an app called Scribe How? So instead of Loom, it like follows your clicks and makes a PDF for you as you're doing a process.
I think I have, and it's something I've really been wanting to check out because it sounds very powerful.
Yeah, y'all, it's SCRIB Scribe BE Scribe How HOW.com. I think I've used it once. I have like a free, I think there's a free tier. And it's like a plug. It's a not a plugin, a Chrome browser tool, and you like turn it on. You like it's just like Loom, like you hit record kind of, and until you hit stop, it documents every at that exact moment. And so I know you said not to have long SOPs, but maybe a long SOP where it's like actual, like easy to create and really good
Yeah.
screenshots could be good for people who are writing. And then I think it's like housed via a link. So those are embeddable in this, like where the red is on your document right there. You could put a Scribe How link and a Loom. You could put both.
Yeah, I think, I mean, I have nothing against SOPs. It's more of the time it takes to create them. So if you're right, like if you can find an easy way to do that, I think that's powerful because some people don't like video, right? Some people like
Yep.
video, some people like to read and to see it on paper. So that is a really good option. Would highly recommend that. So to sum that up, right? It's simple, it's easy to do, and the steps, like the tips we would walk away with is first, keep it simple, right? Just create a simple checklist. Give yourself 5 minutes to brain dump it so you prevent yourself from overthinking it. And then do that for every process before you get into the details. So then you at least have a base foundation that you and other people that you work with can use to follow along, to increase productivity, and create consistent client deliverables. I would also recommend digitalizing your checklist. So, like we've talked about, these processes will be tailored to specific clients. Or, as your firm grows, processes change over time, whether
Mm-hmm.
you're growing or whether clients grows, right? So you want to centralize those in some digital place because as you and so your team can access them very easily, but as your team makes updates, those updates happen across the board. They're not just updating it on a piece of paper somewhere where no one ever sees, right? So digitalizing it makes it more transparent and easy to access. And then revisit your processes every year. So as your clients grow, again, their businesses change. As your firm grows, your processes change. There might be better ways to do things. So we think a good rule of thumb is revisit your processes for if you learn better ways to do things, or as your firm or your clients change, you can keep that documentation current and productive. So now let's talk about our next point, right? You've documented your processes, which one reason we recommend doing that before automation is because a lot of the times when you document your processes, you start to realize where you're spending a lot of time and where are some key things that you can automate. So that is also another thing is I would recommend documenting before automating. But the next step is implementing automation, right? So like we talked about, firms do a lot of repetitive work. You do repetitive payroll, bookkeeping,
Mm-hmm.
um, a lot of the same things every week, every month. And there's typically a streamlined way of doing things because, it's such a, you know, high compliance market, which means it's streamlined, it's repetitive. There's so much opportunity for automation in accounting firms. And I see a lot of accounting firms, it's one person, but they service so many clients and they've built well over six-figure firms that are very profitable because of this.
Because of automation. Yep.
Mhm. So how do you do this, right? How do you implement automation? So we're going to talk about that today. first, what we like to say is you want to identify where you spend time. Then you want to identify the tech you need, prioritize what to implement first, and then create a roadmap to keep you accountable. So let's first talk about identifying your where you're spending your time. So there's several ways you can do this. One is by documenting your processes. You might kind of see some of this as you're going through your processes and seeing where you're spending your time. But what we like to recommend people do is spend a little bit of time tracking time. Even though you don't bill off it, just track time throughout your day as you do certain activities. As maybe you're answering emails, start track that time and record it, right? As you're following with clients, record it. As you're in meetings, record it. As you're actually doing bookkeeping and payroll work, record how much time you're spending throughout a week or two. And then at the end of those weeks, summarize it to get an idea of what your typical week looks like. Now, this is important because a lot of firms don't realize how much time they're spending on emails every day. It's like if you ever like look at your phone, you can see your screen time, and it tells you. Some people are really surprised when it says I'm spending 8 hours a day on social media. Like you never know.
You don't.
Um, it just it's so easy to get lost in the work. So identifying where you track your time is going to then tell you where are the biggest opportunities for automation. Where can I have the highest impact? And that's going to allow you to then go into our next step, right? So now that you know, like this is my example of my typical work week, right? So I'm working 40 hours a week. This is where my time is going. And I can see some of these like collecting client information that can be automated with automated reminders, writing emails. I could have templates to save me a few hours. Scheduling calls, calendar system, that saves me 2 hours. Right here, just alone, I'm saving 12 hours a week. Invoicing clients, there's systems you can use to automate that. You can't automate client meetings, but there's also things you can do to automate your payroll or bookkeeping, like use platforms like Gusto or automated month-end reviews. There's a lot of things you can use to automate these processes and save up to 40-50% of your week.
I just brainstorm real quick on that list. So the scheduling, the meetings, there are, with the scheduling app, you can have it do the reminders so people are not missing their meetings.
Yeah.
Or you can use video recordings and maybe like skip the meeting because you take the time to do a 5-minute video that avoids the 30-minute call. Not that you don't want to talk to your clients, but like maybe every few months, like they'd appreciate like not having to have the full thing. So those are just two things that are coming to mind real quickly about way to reduce that list. So if anyone else has any other ideas, chime in the chat. But we want to automate as much as possible.
So once you identify where your time is being spent and the biggest opportunities for automation, the next thing you're going to want to do is identify the technology you need, right? How are you going to automate this? It's important to find the right tech, right? The stuff that fits your process. But here's the problem that a lot of firms run into is there's a lot of options out there. If you Google like calendar scheduling or a scheduling automation app, you're going to get like 15 options. And it's really easy to get distracted and be like, well, I want to know the best one. Let me do a demo with like the top 10 of them. And then you're going to spend 10 hours of wasted time, right? And then you probably forget which app did what. Even if you took notes, then you have to narrow it down to 3, and then maybe you do another demo. I see this all the time, right? And it prevents people from spending a lot of time, but a lot of times never doing it. I see so many times firms like, I talked to them, like we've been vetting practice management solutions for over 2 years to pick the right one. And at that point, you've done more harm than good. So what we recommend to do when you're looking at the tech options, ask your community. Ask people in the Facebook communities or in forums or people in the space personally. There's a good chance they've been through this same situation. They have the same problems as you. They've automated these processes, and they're going to be able to tell you what worked for them and what didn't. So you don't have to go through that process yourself and reinvent the wheel. It's a great way to speed up this process. And we worked with a lot of firms. We've seen a lot of good solutions that work well. So we've actually also created our own list, our firm automation tech stack. So it's a lot of options. You can see our solution in here, but also like scheduling, email templates, capturing receipts, month-end reviews, payments, there's a lot of things you can automate in your firm. And this is just a list that we put together for some, end-to-end firm automation. And we're going to share this with you. This is going to be in the firm automation playbook that everyone's going to be walking away with. So you'll have this.
So underneath the video, y'all, it's downloadable.
Oh yeah, that's perfect. Yeah, so download that now if you're interested in implementing automation in your firm. So let's talk about the next step, right? You want to prioritize, right? Because another big problem you'll face when implementing automation is if you try to do it all at once, it's going to be overwhelming. And it's tempting, right? Because you see all this value, you want to unlock all this capacity. But the best thing you can do is take it one step at a time so it's more digestible. That's for you, especially if you have a team. Getting them to adopt a solution can be tough, but breaking it out into bite-sized pieces makes it a lot easier. So how do you prioritize what to automate first? Well, that's why we created this firm automation or automation priority matrix. Again, all of this is in the playbook, so you can have this and reference this. But typically what we say is you want to follow this matrix. First, you do, obviously, the easiest things to automate that are going to save you the most time. Then you want to do the easiest things to automate that are going to save you the least time. And the reason we focus on easy to automate first versus hard to automate, implementing technology can be overwhelming sometimes, whether it's just you, but even if you have a team, it's even harder to get them to adopt it. But if you can start small and see that value and the benefit it has on your firm, and your team can see how much it makes their lives easier, it's going to give you momentum and make you more likely to succeed when you implement the bigger implementation tools or automation tools that are going to take more time. It gets you used to it. You learn from the small mistakes, and you're going to be more efficient and better at implementing the bigger ones. Your team's going to be more open to it. So definitely start with the easy things first, even if they don't save you the most time, and then move on to the hard to automate stuff. So this is an example from the list you saw earlier. Client data collection, it's very easy to set up automated reminders, right? They can save us 5 hours a week. Writing emails, spend a lot of time sending emails, just have the templates. That saves me 3 hours. Scheduling calls, easy to automate, but it doesn't save me as much time. So it falls in this boat. And then now I have my automation priority for all of this. Then once you've done that, right, you want to create a roadmap to keep you accountable. Even if it's just you, right, you still want to create a roadmap, because you're going to set deadlines. You're going to know exactly what you're going to automate and when, and it can hold you accountable and keep you on track. If you have a team, this is even more important, because you can assign someone that's in charge of it. You can also set the deadlines to keep them accountable. So you can see I've prioritized everything here. And that is how we recommend implementing automation, right? First, identifying where you spend your time, leaning on your community and resources to identify how to automate those big opportunities, prioritizing, and then documenting it into a roadmap. Yeah, I think that's everything I mentioned in the tips real quick. Yeah, and just if you do have a team, right, make sure you spend time training your team in ensuring adoption. Don't move on to the next tool until you get everyone to fully adopt the thing. So if you have to, have multiple training sessions. Do a training session with your team. If they haven't fully adopted it after 2 weeks, do another training session to address any issues, understand why they're not adopting it, and pull in even like the software company to do a demo for your team if it's helpful.
When do you hire someone to just do the automation for you?
I see a lot of people do that. And I think that's a great idea. I think it just really depends where you're at. I think if you're so overwhelmed where you're too busy to like, I don't even know if I could find the time to, because it's like ripping off a Band-Aid, right? It's hard. It takes some time to do, and no one wants to go through that process, but it pays off tenfold. So if you're just too busy, or Maybe you don't want to go through the process of vetting, even asking your friends for all those apps, and you want to go faster. You can pay a lot of specialists to help you automate your firm.
Mhm.
It still takes time, but they're gonna speed that process up, and it comes down to two things, right? Time or money. You know, if
Mhm.
you have the money, you can go faster. You can bring in a specialist. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. You can lean on them. But if you don't want to spend the money, you're gonna have to spend the time. Um, so it just really depends where you're at and what your preference is, in my opinion.
Cool.
So lastly, we talked about documentation. We've talked about automation. Now you want to create a centralized firm hub. A firm hub is a place where you manage your work, you collaborate with your team and clients, and store
Mm.
all your information, your entire firm database, emails, meeting notes, documents, um, client information, everything. You want all of this work, collaboration, and information all in one place. Creating a centralized place like that is going to make your firm more productive. And why is that, right? So, like we talked about, the biggest productivity killer for firms is disorganization. It's so hard when you have, even if it's just you, right? And let's say you have a large client base, you're keeping up with multiple deadlines, all of their work, all the different things that are happening. You're communicating with all these clients, your documents, the meeting notes are stored in all these different places. Everything's disorganized, even as a solo. If you start to grow and you hire team members, it gets worse, right? Because now they're storing things in different places. You don't know where their information is. They don't even know where your information is, and it's just everyone's spending time trying to find the emails they need, find the documents they need, the notes they need, the client information they need, and it just kills productivity. They interrupt someone trying to find it, or they
Mhm.
waste an hour or two a day just looking for this information. So having a firm hub gives you a single source of truth, one place where you can track work, collaborate, and organize everything to efficiently get work done. So let's first talk about work management, right? Again, the problem is, as an owner, it's very difficult to track the status of work. Am I getting all my deadlines done? um, Especially if you have staff, right? You don't know who's working on what. Did we get the work done? What is the status of that work? And if you do have a staff, it's important. The problem for them is they may not even know what to do, right? What is the priority I need to follow? What are the steps I need to follow? So having a work management tool, right? It solves that problem. It gives your team one place to go to see everything they need to do, assigned to them, the order it is in, and when they need to
Mhm.
begin it. As an owner, it gives you the visibility to know, did I get all my work done at the end of the day? What is the status of work? Are we on or off track? Um, and this just helps your firm. It gives you more visibility to stay on top of things. It prevents things from slipping through the cracks and hit your deadlines. Now, I'm going to talk a little bit about our tool here because this is where we focus and specialize. Is work management, or really we are a firm hub, is what Financial Sense is. So we help with all these problems we're going to talk about here. So this is our workflow dashboard to kind of give you an example. I can come in here, I can see everything that's going on right now. Who's working on what is the status of work, and when is it due? So nothing slips through the cracks. I can see the progress. I can see what period of time it's for, what client it's for, and I can run custom reports to see maybe everything that's in review for this week, everything that's overdue, everything we're doing just for a specific client. So you can really drill it down and get the reporting and visibility you need. So let's talk about collaboration, right? So we'll first talk about work collaboration. So if it's just you, um, you're going to want to keep all that work related information in one place, right? So the checklist we talked about that you need to follow, emails, so client emails that are related to the work. You don't want to have to spend 10 minutes searching through your inbox trying to find that update or that information they share with you related to the monthly bookkeeping, files and documents, or even just updates. So especially if you have a team, right? Everything is just more disconnected and siloed off. So you want to keep all this work information in one place, because when you can't access that information, again, it slows your work down and kills productivity. It causes mistakes. So using a workflow solution solves that, because it keeps it all in one place. So your team can access all the information they need, or you can access that information in seconds. And again, this is also built into our solution, to where you saw here where you can view the work and status of the work from a high level. But if you go into the work, you can see the checklists for how to do the processes. Your team can collaborate. You can see related emails. So you can pin emails from your inbox that your client sent you to the work. So it's right there. So everything is one click away. Documents, communication, and also related emails and client communication. So it's organized and easy to find, instead of spread in all these different silos.
So a client sends me an email. How do I tag it over there? And because is my email connected to Financial Sense, or am I sending and forwarding an email to Financial Sense?
So we have an email integration. So when you get an
Okay.
email from a client, you can easily just say, pin this email to work, and it'll know the client automatically based off the email. And it'll show all the work you have with that client. You can just click the
Perfect.
work, and it's going to be pinned to it.
Is that a new feature?
That is a new feature. Yeah, it's our
Oh,
inbox
okay.
feature. And you can
Okay.
also, so it makes that forward. So we used to have the forward feature. This is that on steroids, because you can create work. So like if a client emails you, ask you to do something, you can create work from that email. It'll automatically be pinned, or you can pin emails to existing work. So you have it on the project, or your team can view it when they're doing the work. Very
Cool.
powerful.
Congrats on that feature.
Yeah, it was a year in the making.
I can only imagine.
Yeah, it's a lot of work, but our customers love it. I mean, it just, again, it's around that organization, right? Keeping everything in one place instead of all these different channels. So let's talk about client communication, right? So a big thing is, it's really hard to keep up with client communication. Clients are texting you, they're emailing you, they're chatting you. It's happening in many different channels. And it prevents you from, one, having an audit trail of communication. So if something goes wrong, you don't know what happened and why. But also, having all these different communications makes it harder for clients to keep up with where to communicate with you, right? So if you're requesting information, it's almost impossible to get it from them. I see this all the time. Most firms, work becomes overdue because they're waiting on clients to send them information. So you want a client collaboration tool that centralizes your client communication in one place. So you can go back and see an audit trail of every conversation with the client, when you spoke to them, when and about what. You can also, but also it makes it easy for your client to communicate with you, because they have one place to go and know where to share, like talk to you, ask you questions, or share information. But also a solution that has automated reminders to speed up the collection process and save you time and automate that process, right? So one, you're saving time, but two, you're getting documents faster from clients, because it's keeping up with them more regularly, and it's on a certain cadence that they get used to. So you can actually get your work done on time. We do this also with Financial Sense. It's built into our tool. So this ties into our email integration, actually, Kate.
Okay.
This is an audit trail. So if a client sends you an email or a message, it shows up here. So you have a chronological timeline of every conversation with your client. So you know exactly when you talk to them. So if a client calls you and says, hey, what happened here? You didn't get this done, or why'd you do this? You can go back and reference that conversation and see it without having to filter through your inbox, or and try to find those emails individually. Really, it's like you see a lot of firms, they have like a folder in their inbox with the client name, and they just drop all those emails in there manually. This does that automatically,
Okay.
which is great. And then there's the second part, right, which is the requesting the information. So we have a secure portal that sends automated requests to your client every single month for like monthly bookkeeping, or every week, or every quarter, every year, or whatever type of work. And it'll automatically request that information on a certain date of the month every single month. And it'll send automated reminders every few days until they actually get it done. So now you don't have to chase down your clients, but you can get your documents faster in a more secure way than email, because this is encrypted.
Okay.
And then lastly is the client database, right? So we talked about managing your work. We talked about the internal and external communication with your team and your clients. But next is the database, right? All that information, your meeting notes, your passwords, entity info, contact info. A lot of firms, this is being stored in Excel sheets, it's being stored on paper, it's being stored in a folder somewhere. Again, all these different things are being stored in different channels, and your team is storing them in different channels if you have a team. So it makes it hard to find this information, which slows down your firm and kills your productivity. So you want to create a centralized client database to store all this information, right? So your team or you can access it in seconds. In financial sense, so if we go back, you can see in our project how we have the client's name here. So when you're in the work, you can click the client's name and it'll take you to the client's profile. Here is where you store everything related to the client. In this dashboard, you can see all your meeting notes, files, requests, work, contact information, entity info, passwords to the apps. Everything related to the client is right here, so you can access it in seconds, or your team can access it, and you can get back to your work. And that is the benefit of the Work Hub, right? It keeps your work, your collaboration, both with your team and your clients, and all your firm data in one place, so you can track the status of work and stay on top of it. You can access the information you need in seconds, and you can streamline and improve client communication and get that information faster to get your work done. So this is going to increase your productivity. It's going to keep your clients happier because they're going to get better results and better deliverables from you. And it's going to drastically increase productivity, capacity, and output. So to sum everything up, right, the things you're going to want to, like, from the webinar, it comes down to streamlining your processes so you can provide consistent client deliverables. But if you do decide to grow or work with outsourced people, it helps them be more efficient. It reduces training. It, again, creates more consistent deliverables. Automate your processes that are time consuming and low admin, or really non-billable, so you can unlock up to 40% of the time you're already spending a week and use that to do more work, increase and drive more revenue, and increase profitability. And you're going to want to create a centralized firm hub, right? A place where everything happens: work, communication, and information. So you can access it quickly, your team can access it, you can streamline your communication and just really get work done. So as we mentioned, there's 2 links below for free resources. You can get the process documentation playbook. This is how you can document your processes, keep it simple like we talked about, but also optimize it. It also comes with 16 free accounting checklists. So if you don't want to reinvent the wheel, we have some checklists that we've created with our firms over the years that you can use to get started today. And then the firm automation playbook. This is just going to walk through that process of how you can automate your processes, your work week, the tech stack, the priority matrix, and the roadmap. And if you want to create a work hub, right, a firm hub, you can check out Financial Sense, start a free trial. It's completely free for 2 weeks for you and your team, full featured. If you have any questions, you can work with our team. You can schedule a demo, but would love for you guys to come check us out. That's it. Anyone has any
All
questions?
right. If anyone has any questions, feel free to chime in here. I don't want to keep us too much longer because Shahram is also reachable, like in the Facebook group. You can tag him. He's a very hands-on founder. So any questions that come up later or when people watch the replay, y'all can. This isn't the only time to ask. You can always find him. I was just going to say, well, I'll wait another 30 seconds. That 16 accounting checklists, 16 accounting process checklists that's in the firm documentation playbook.
Yeah.
I'm fascinated. I'm gonna take a look at that because I'm trying to think, like, what 16 things are there. But when I'm a new bookkeeping professional trying to, like, build my own business and coming at this industry without any experience in the industry, I knew accounting concepts, but I don't think I really knew what a bookkeeper did. So just even reading those lists would be like, oh, okay, none of this sounds like impossible to me. I get it. It's organized in a way that I can say, oh, I could do that for a client. Like, so any of y'all brand new folks or tax folks who may be wanting to get into bookkeeping and CAS services, that list might be just like, oh, this is what monthly bookkeeping would actually look like, and you can change your focus.
Yeah,
So
and
that seems interesting.
I was gonna say, outside of checklists, like, so if you do go to our website, and you look at, I think the tab is Learn, and you go to like our free checklist templates, which is a lot of these templates here. There's also other things too, like price increase letter, a proficiency test for new hires, of another
Oh,
popular
wow.
one, an engagement letter, right? So a sample engagement letter for hiring new clients that covers scope and kind of protects you, but also covers like the things you need to talk about with your clients, so they keep in boundaries in terms of communication and what your responsibilities are and aren't, which we talked about before. And even like meeting agenda templates. We're actually creating a lot of new content this year. We're creating a content hub, which is going to have like podcasts with real founders that are going through the same problems that most firm owners face, talk about how they overcome them, interviews with experts, more templates and stuff like this that firms can use in their firm every day. So that's soon to come, but those templates I just mentioned are there right now if people are looking for information like that.
All right. Well, we will wrap up now. Shahram, thank you so much for your teaching as always. We are certain to see you back here. Y'all watch the full playlist, get your resources, tag Shahram with questions, keep learning, keep growing your business, and let us know how we can help. Talk to you later.
Perfect. Take care, everyone.